Firefighters of Reddit. What's the dumbest way you've seen someone accidentally start a house fire? My husband and I went to his parents' house for Christmas one year. When we came back home we had a WTF happened moment across the street. The house had all the windows busted, the brick on the entire house was charred, and all the cars in the driveway were melted to the cement. Turns out they had started a grease fire from frying a turkey, then tried to throw water on it to put it out. Fortunately, they only destroyed their own house, but burnt the side of the neighbor's house. Needless to say, they made the news. Do not throw water on a grease fire. You need to smother the fire properly. The Olay turkey fryer on the wood deck is always a favorite. My dad is a firefighter and he once told me that if I ever want to start a fire and make it look like an accident that the turkey cooker is the way to do it. He taught me how to commit arson and insurance fraud. In the city of Colorado Springs, the local news did a fluff piece about candle safety near Christmas. After they were done filming, the store owner that they were filming in took the crew out to breakfast. She didn't put out the candles, and burned several shops to the ground. The film crew was there to film her breakdown when they realized what caused the fire. I worked for a restoration company. A family cut a small tree down and tried to stuff it up their fireplace to burn. The flute was so crammed with leaves that smoke started to fill the living room. They tried to pull the tree out and that's when it really caught fire. They tried to pull it out of the house. They got as far as the front door. All of them had 2 third-degree burns on their hands, arms, and the fire destroyed the front room and entryway of their house. The insurance company asked us if we thought it was a case of fraud, and we told them no, these people are just really stupid. A Roomba knocked a scented candle over and set fire to the rest of the room. The guy said he knew the Roomba did it because he watched the whole thing happen, but didn't do anything because he thought it was funny. Teenager was charcoal grilling in the attached garage during the winter. When done he decided the best place to dispose of the hot coals was into a cardboard box in front corner of the garage closest to the house. Yeah, it went about as well as you can imagine. A fairly common one, but the response was interesting. Early February, Western PA. Guy's pipes freeze on the coldest day of the year, -8 F. He tries to thaw them with a propane torch. Sets the wall on fire. Tries to put the fire out. Fails. Finally calls 911. Fire chief is 1/2 block away. Is on scene in under a minute. Basement is fully involved. Main floor catching. First engine arrives in under 5 minutes. Doors are blocked by fire. Exterior attack only. I'm on an attack line, spraying water into the second floor window. After 40 minutes, another firefighter comes to relieve me, but since I'd been getting back spray, I'm frozen to the ground. He has to pull me loose 2 hours later. We have it knocked down. The insurance adjuster shows up. Assistant chief explains what started the fire. Adjuster replies, "Oh, yeah, we know. It's okay, we insure for stupid, nobody got hurt. Gets a much nicer house out of the deal." My dad was a firefighter, and he once went to a house fire that was started by the old lady who lived there. She liked to burn candles, but didn't like the wax buildup that would form in the cavity, so she would soak up the liquid wax with a napkin. She was doing this when she accidentally brushed a wax-soaked napkin up against the flame. She panicked and threw the napkin into the trash where all the other wax napkins were. As the trash can exploded into flames she fled the house, but not before she went to her oxygen tanks and flooded the house with pure oxygen, because she thought that it would smother the fire. Not a house fire, but really good. Late 1980s. Guy was driving an old, beat-up Lincoln. He turned a corner to go up a steep hill, but the road department had recently ground the asphalt down in preparation to repave. A storm sewer manhole cover was sticking up about 4 inches. As he went over it and up the hill, the rear of his car dragged due to the pavement height difference, and the manhole ripped open his fuel tank and sparked off the gas. Guy described it. "I heard a scraping sound, looked in the mirror, and there was this trail of fire chasing me up the hill. Like I was the road runner." He pulled into a gravel parking lot and tried to kick a brake in the trail before the fire got there, but it jumped the gap and lit the car. By the time we got there, It was a total loss. He actually thought it was kind of funny. The only real loss was his wife's purse, with her license and credit card. The car was insured, and they got a pretty nice payout for it. In college, a girl in the dorms was making popcorn which, not sure how but somehow, caught fire in the microwave. She didn't want to get into trouble for it, so she grabbed the flaming bag of popcorn and threw it into the nearby trash can. Then proceeded to cover the fire with paper towels to smother it. She actually thought it would work. It did not work. I came back exhausted after work to find the dorm building surrounded by fire trucks. Not a firefighter, but the apartment building I lived in at the time caught fire because all my neighbors smoke and throw their cigarette butts into the ground, which happened to be fresh mulch, before going up the steps. The mulch caught fire, which lit the siding on fire. No one's fire alarms went off. Someone driving by saw the smoke, stopped, ran and pulled the fire alarm, but it was only connected to the buzzer in the breezeway, not the fire alarms in the apartments. All bedrooms are in the back of the apartments, so no one heard it or woke up. He ran past the flames and banged on everyone's doors to wake people up. Fire department came and put out the fire pretty quick. It never got very big. I also caught the whole thing on my truck's dash cam, but can't find the video now. It was just one more thing that got us to leave apartments for good. Too many stupid people. A friend of mine in the 5th grade caught himself on fire with lighter fluid when the charcoal wasn't really starting. They used to sell extension arms you could hook to the lighter fluid can, and he used one of those, but the fire ran up the dripping fluid into the can. No problem. He just walked over and set it down and released the holder, at which point the can tipped over. It was only about 1 stroke for full, so little spilled out, but he went to tip it back up when it exploded right when his head was above it and the burning lighter fluid covered his head. He was pretty smart for an 11-year-old. He remembered where the fire extinguisher was, ran over, pulled the pin, and sprayed himself, but he still had bad burns all over his face and head. My father was a Boston firefighter for 30+ years. One of his more memorable stories was a foreign family who had ripped up their cast iron bathtub and built an open flame underneath the tub. They used the tub as a giant oil fryer. Naturally, this didn't work out very well and the house caught fire. To add to the insanity even more, the family absolutely refused to let my dad and his co-workers in without taking their boots off. Which of course, they couldn't agree to. Just crazy. My partner's a firefighter. He said the dumbest one was where a man tried to barbecue in his basement. His reasoning? I don't want to go outside and risk exposure to coronavirus. It would be safer to do it here in the basement. My father lived in a rented apartment. The landlord lived in the apartment beneath him. My father had switched the fuse off the oven off, because he had done some electrical work. He also put some receipts on the oven. In the meantime, the landlord saw the flipped off fuse, located on the basement, and flipped it on. We wondered why it smelled burned, and we discovered that the oven was on, and had burned the paper to ash. Amazing. It did not really burn. The paper just turned to ash. You could even still read some words, but if you touched it, it just turned to dust. Not a firefighter, but I was living in a big old single family home that had been converted into 6 apartments. Because it was a house, it had a shingle roof. The owner hired one of those unlicensed, uninsured type outfits to work on the roof, the kind you find hanging out at Home Depot in the morning looking for jobs. Anyways, long story short, the guy was on the roof, smoking, and somehow caught it on fire. Rather than dialing 911, he ran down 3 flights of fire escape, got the garden hose, and ran it back up. Once he got to the top, he realized he never turned it on, so he ran back down, turned it on, and ran back up. Apparently by that time it was out of control, so he headed off. One of the neighbors finally called 911, but by then it was a full-on blaze, destroyed the top 2 floors and most of the first floor. Moral of the story is, just call the professionals.